I remember the first time I truly felt lost in an English conversation. I was in a bustling London cafe, confident after years of study, when a native speaker asked me a simple question. But the words blurred into a sonic boom of sound, a jumble of syllables I couldn't decipher. My heart sank. I had all the vocabulary, all the grammar rules memorized, yet I was stranded on an island of misunderstanding. That moment was my awakening. If you've ever felt that frustrating disconnect, that panic when English sounds like a high-speed train rushing past you, then you are in the right place. Stay with me, because I am going to show you that understanding fast English isn't a magical talent, it's a skill you can master, starting today. I've been where you are, and I've navigated the path to fluency. This isn't just about listening harder, it's about listening smarter. The secret that transformed everything for me was realizing that native speakers don't speak in individual, dictionary-perfect words. We speak in sound units, connected streams of speech where words blend, shrink, and even disappear. Linguists call this connected speech, and it's the reason why "what are you going to do" miraculously becomes "whadja gonna do" in casual conversation. Your textbook probably never taught you that. This is the hidden layer of the language, the real code you need to crack. My goal is to make you aware of this code, to tune your ear to the music of everyday English, so you can stop translating and start understanding intuitively. Let's start with the most common sound change you will encounter: reductions. Small, grammatical words like to, for, and you often get weakened in speed. The word to rarely sounds like to. Instead, it softens to a gentle ta. Listen for it. I'm going to the store becomes I'm gonna the store. Notice the transformation? Going to becomes gonna. This isn't slang, it's standard, natural pronunciation. Your first mission is to actively hunt for these reductions in the English you hear around you, in movies, podcasts, or songs. Don't just listen passively, lean in and identify the ta, the fair, the and for and. This simple act of focused attention will rewire your brain to process these sounds not as noise, but as meaningful language. Another critical element is the disappearance of sounds, a process called elision. Often, the T and D sounds in the middle or end of words simply vanish when we speak quickly. The word exactly can sound like exactly. Most people often comes out as most people. Your brain needs to learn to fill in these gaps. It feels strange at first, like you're missing something, but with exposure, your ear will adapt. Think of it like a puzzle. You have the context of the sentence, and your mind becomes brilliant at supplying the missing pieces. This is the beginning of thinking in English, rather than constantly decoding it. But perhaps the most powerful tool for decoding fast speech is understanding how words link together. Native speakers don't pronounce words in isolation, they connect them smoothly, creating a continuous flow of sound. This is where the magic really happens. One of the most common linking techniques is when a word ending in a consonant sound connects to a word beginning with a vowel sound. For example, an apple is never an apple. It's an apple. The consonant sound at the end of the first word slides directly into the vowel of the next. Listen to these phrases: turn _off, log _on, it _is. Practice saying them as single units of sound. This single insight will dramatically improve your listening comprehension. Another game changer is the intrusion of sounds, where our vocal apparatus adds a tiny sound to make the link between two words smoother. The most frequent is the intrusive y sound, like a gentle y. After words ending in long y or ya sounds, we often insert this y. Say I_am very quickly. Do you hear it? I am. It happens naturally. Similarly, after words ending in oro, we sometimes add a slight sound. Go_away can sound like go-away. And after words ending in r in non-rhotic accents like British English, an r sound can appear before a vowel. Law_and order becomes law and order. Your ear must learn to expect these phantom sounds. They are not extra words, they are the glue that holds native speech together. Now, let's talk about contractions. You know the basics like I'm and don't, but we take it much further. We constantly combine and condense words for efficiency. What did you becomes whadja? Would you becomes whadja? I have got to go transforms into I've gotta go. These are not signs of lazy speech, they are the standard rhythm of the language. When you resist them, you fight the current. When you embrace them, you start to flow with it. I want you to start a personal collection. Keep a notebook, digital or physical, and every time you hear a new contraction or a linked phrase in a song, a movie, or a conversation, write it down. Say it out loud. Make it part of your own speaking repertoire. This active engagement is what bridges the gap between knowing and doing. Mastering these elements, reductions, elision, linking, and contractions, is like learning the chords to a song. Once you know them, you can recognize the tune even when it's played fast. You are not just learning English, you are learning the music of English. And this is just the foundation. We are building a new way of hearing, one sound at a time. Now, let's shift our focus from the sounds themselves to the rhythm of the language. This was the single biggest breakthrough in my own journey. English is a stress-timed language. This means that the rhythm is created by stressed syllables that occur at roughly regular intervals, like the beat of a drum, while the unstressed syllables are squeezed in between them. This is why native speech can sound so musical and, at the same time, so confusing. You are trying to catch every single word, but that's not how the language is designed to be heard. The key is to stop listening for every word and start listening for the beat. In any sentence, certain words are stressed. These are the content words, the nouns, main verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. They carry the core meaning. The other words, the function words like articles, prepositions, and pronouns, are almost always weakened and rushed. They become part of the background rhythm. Let me give you an example. Listen to the rhythm of this sentence, I want to go to the store. The stressed words are want, go, and store. The other words I, to, they are much softer and quicker. Your brain needs to latch onto the stressed syllables to understand the essential message. This explains why you might miss a whole string of words in a fast sentence. You are probably focusing on the weak, unstressed function words that the speaker barely pronounced. Instead, train your ear to hunt for the strong beats. When you listen to a podcast, try tapping your hand on the table on every stressed syllable. You will start to feel the music of the language. This rhythm is the skeleton of the sentence. Once you have the skeleton, your brain can much more easily fill in the rest of the meaning from context. This rhythmic pattern is also why the schwa sound is so incredibly important. The schwa is that lazy, neutral sound, represented by an upside-down E in phonetics. It is the most common vowel sound in English. It appears in virtually every unstressed syllable. Words like a, the, thu, to, ta, and for, fair, almost always contain a schwa. But it also appears in the unstressed syllables of longer words. The in about is a schwa, about. The o incomplete is a schwa, complete. By learning to expect and recognize this muffled, neutral sound in unstressed positions, you stop being confused by it and start using it as a navigational beacon. It tells you that this part of the word or sentence is less important, allowing you to focus your mental energy on the stressed, meaning-carrying syllables. So, how do we practically train our ears to catch this rhythm and these reduced sounds? We move beyond passive listening and into active decoding. For years, I listened to English radio for hours, barely seeing improvement. I was being a passive passenger. The moment I became the driver, everything changed. Active listening is a focused practice session where you work with short audio clips, 1 minute or even 30 seconds long. Your goal is not just to understand the general idea, but to crack the specific code of how the speaker produces the sound. Here is your actionable blueprint. First, find a short audio clip with a transcript. A podcast like 6-Minute English is perfect for this. Step 1. Listen to the clip once without the transcript. Just try to get the gist. Don't worry about what you miss. Step 2. Now, listen again with the transcript in front of you. Follow along meticulously. This is where the magic happens. Circle every single instance where you hear a reduction, a link, or a contraction. Mark where the schwa sounds appear. See the gap between what you expected to hear, the perfect dictionary pronunciation, and what you actually heard, the fluid, native speech. This visual connection is profoundly powerful. Step 3 is crucial: shadow the audio. Play a short sentence, maybe just 3 or 4 words, then pause and try to imitate the speaker exactly. Copy their rhythm, their stress, their linking, even their intonation. Don't just say the words, become a vocal mirror. This does 2 things simultaneously. It sharpens your listening because you have to hear the fine details to reproduce them, and it trains your mouth to form these natural sound patterns, which will inevitably improve your own fluency and pronunciation. You are building the muscle memory for native-like speech. The 4th step is to listen to the same clip one final time, without the transcript. You will be amazed at how much clearer it sounds. Those blurred sounds will now stand out as distinct, recognizable patterns. This entire process might take you 15 minutes for a 1-minute clip, but the depth of learning is equivalent to hours of passive listening. You are not just consuming the language, you are dissecting it and reassembling it. You are moving from being an outsider looking in, to being an insider who understands the mechanics. This is the dedicated practice that will rewire your brain. But knowledge without consistent practice remains just theory. To truly rewire your brain, you must immerse yourself in the wild, unpredictable, and beautiful world of authentic English content. This is where we move from the controlled environment of our practice sessions to the vibrant chaos of real life. I want you to start thinking of yourself as a language hunter, and your prey is the specific sounds and rhythms we've been discussing. Your hunting grounds are everywhere: movies, TV series, YouTube videos, podcasts, and conversations. Let's talk about using movies and TV shows effectively. The biggest mistake is to watch an entire episode with subtitles and call it practice. That is relaxation, not learning. For true progress, you must select short scenes. Choose a 2-minute scene from your favorite series. First, watch it with English subtitles to understand the context. Then, watch it again, but this time, your sole focus is on hunting for one specific thing. In one viewing, only listen for linked words. In the next, only listen for the schwa sound and unstressed syllables. In another, focus solely on the rhythm and which words are stressed. This targeted, repetitive listening trains your ear to isolate and recognize these patterns automatically, even when they are flying at you in a rapid conversation. Podcasts and audiobooks are another incredible training ground, especially because they lack visual cues, forcing your ear to do all the work. A powerful technique is to listen to the same short segment of a podcast multiple times. The first time, you might only catch 40%. The second time, perhaps 60%. By the fifth time, your brain has adjusted to the speaker's pace and accent, and you will understand over 90%. This process builds neural pathways, teaching your brain that it can, in fact, decode this speed. It's like weightlifting for your ears. You are pushing their limits and making them stronger. The final, and most crucial, step is to engage in active prediction. As you listen, don't just process the words you hear, try to anticipate what sound might come next. If someone says, "I'm going to," your brain should already be expecting to hear the or a verb, and it should be prepared for the gonna reduction. This active engagement transforms you from a passive receiver into an interactive participant in the conversation. This is the peak of listening fluency. It's no longer about hearing perfectly but about understanding seamlessly, about your brain operating in sync with the speaker. This is the ultimate goal. Now, let's tackle one of the most powerful yet underutilized tools in your listening arsenal: context and prediction. Your brain is not a blank slate when you enter a conversation, it's a supercomputer constantly making predictions based on a vast database of past experiences. We need to harness this power consciously. Think of listening like driving on a familiar road at night. Your headlights only illuminate a short stretch ahead, but you know the general direction of the road, so you can drive with confidence. Context is your headlight. Cognitive science shows us that we don't need to hear every single phoneme to understand speech. Our brains are brilliant at filling in the gaps based on the situation, the topic, and the words we did understand. If you're in a coffee shop and you hear the barista say, "Would you like a," even if you miss a word or two, the context of the situation strongly suggests she's asking about a pastry with your coffee. You don't need to strain to hear the muffled words, your logical brain has already solved the puzzle. Start to trust this process. To actively train this skill, engage in pre-listening prediction. Before you watch a news clip or listen to a podcast, take 30 seconds to think about the topic. What vocabulary is likely to come up? What are the common phrases associated with this subject? If the topic is the weather, you can expect words like forecast, high pressure, scattered showers, and phrases like "it's looking like" or "we're in for a." By priming your brain with this expected lexicon, you are essentially creating a mental checklist. When you then listen, your brain will be on high alert for these words, making them much easier to spot and process at high speed. Furthermore, pay close attention to discourse markers, those little signpost words that guide the conversation. Words like "however," "on the other hand," "as a result," or "for instance" tell you exactly what kind of information is coming next. When you hear "on the other hand," you know a contrasting point is following. This allows you to anticipate the structure of the speaker's thought, not just the individual words. This predictive model is how natives listen. We are always a half step ahead, not because we are psychic, but because we are using context and linguistic cues to forecast the meaning. This is how you move from frantic decoding to calm, confident comprehension. For a long time, I believed that if I could just understand one accent, like General American or received pronunciation, I would be fine. I was wrong. The real world of English is a dazzling tapestry of accents, and my first encounter with a strong Scottish accent was a humbling experience. It felt like a completely different language. This is a challenge every listener faces, but it's not an insurmountable one. The key is not to learn every accent, but to train your ear to be flexible and adaptable. You must learn to tune your dial to different stations. The first step is to stop fighting the accent. When we hear an unfamiliar accent, our brain often panics and tries to force the sounds into the patterns we know. This leads to frustration and fatigue. Instead, I want you to approach a new accent with curiosity. For the first minute, don't even try to understand every word. Just listen to the music of it. What is its rhythm? Is it melodic or staccato? What are its unique vowel sounds? This passive acclimatization allows your brain to adjust without pressure. Think of it as letting your ears warm up before a workout. Then, focus on identifying the systematic shifts in that accent. Accents often change vowel sounds in predictable ways. For example, in many Australian and British accents, the I and day sounds more like die. In some American Southern accents, the I and my becomes a longer, drawn-out ah. Consonants can change too, like the dropped R in many British accents or the flattened T in American English. When you listen, actively listen for these patterns. Once you identify that a particular accent consistently changes a specific vowel sound, your brain can automatically begin to make the correction. You are building a small, internal translation guide for that accent. The most effective way to do this is through targeted exposure. Don't jump randomly between a Texas cowboy, a London banker, and a Newcastle factory worker. That's a recipe for confusion. Instead, choose one accent you want to familiarize yourself with and immerse in it for a week or two. Watch interviews with actors from that region, follow local news channels from that area, find a YouTuber with that accent. The repeated exposure will train your brain to its unique phonetic signature. And remember the shadowing technique we discussed? It's even more powerful here. Imitating a Scottish speaker for a few minutes is one of the fastest ways to get your ear and mouth accustomed to its rhythms and sounds. This isn't about mimicry for fun, it's about neurological calibration. For years, I fought an exhausting battle against a single, invisible enemy, ambiguity. The panic that set in when I missed a word was paralyzing. I would get stuck on that one unknown sound, rewinding it in my mind while the speaker raced ahead, leaving me further and further behind. My breakthrough came when I made a simple but profound mindset shift. I stopped trying to understand every single word. This seems counterintuitive, but it is the cornerstone of fluent listening. You must learn to embrace the ambiguity. The truth is, native speakers don't catch every single word either. We are constantly guessing, predicting, and filling in blanks based on context. Our brains are designed to process language efficiently, not perfectly. When you accept that you will miss things, you free up immense cognitive resources that were previously wasted on panic and frustration. Instead of freezing on one unknown word, you learn to let it go. You trust that the overall context will reveal its meaning, or that it wasn't a crucial word to begin with. This is not giving up, it is learning to listen strategically. This is where your knowledge of grammar and common collocations becomes your greatest ally. Even if you miss a word, the structure of the sentence often tells you what kind of word it must have been. If you hear, she has a really outlook on life, and you miss the adjective, your brain knows it's a descriptive word about a perspective. It could be positive, optimistic, cynical, but the grammatical slot is clear. This structural awareness acts as a safety net. Furthermore, words often travel in predictable pairs or groups. If you hear strong, there's a high probability the next word might be coffee, opinion, or wind. If you hear commit, you might later hear torment. These collocational chains guide your understanding. Practice this by listening to audio and intentionally allowing your focus to be soft. Don't cling to every syllable. Listen for the gist, for the overall flow of ideas. When you encounter an unknown or muffled word, don't rewind immediately. Let the conversation continue for a few more sentences. Very often, the topic will circle back, or a synonym will be used, and the meaning will become clear. You are training your brain to be patient and to see the whole forest, not just the one tree you stumbled over. This ability to tolerate uncertainty is what separates a struggling listener from a confident one. It transforms listening from a stressful test into a relaxed, engaging conversation. The final, and most transformative, piece of the fluency puzzle is understanding that listening and speaking are not two separate skills, they are two sides of the same coin. You cannot truly master one without the other. For so long, I viewed them as separate challenges. I would practice listening, then I would practice speaking. But the real magic happens when you fuse them together in a continuous feedback loop. Your ears guide your mouth, and your mouth trains your ears. Every time you successfully produce a native-like sound, when you correctly link this_afternoon or reduce whadja to whadja, you are doing more than just improving your pronunciation. You are carving that sonic pattern deeper into your brain. The next time you hear it, your recognition will be instantaneous because it's a sound you yourself can make. This is proprioceptive learning. You are learning by doing. Your mouth and your vocal cords are developing a memory for the music of English. This physical familiarity is a powerful form of knowledge. Therefore, your speaking practice must become a laboratory for your listening skills. Don't just practice saying words correctly, practice saying them with the correct rhythm, linking, and reduction. Read a short paragraph out loud, but focus entirely on the flow. Are you stressing the correct syllables? Are you connecting the words smoothly? Are you using the schwa in unstressed words? Record yourself and listen back. Compare your recording to a native speaker reading the same text. The differences you hear will be glaring, and this awareness is invaluable. You are becoming your own teacher, critically evaluating the very sounds you are training your ears to recognize. This integrated approach builds a profound kind of confidence. It shatters the illusion that native speakers possess some unattainable gift. You realize that the fluidity you admire is simply a mastery of the same set of rules and patterns you are now learning. When you know how the trick is done, it loses its power to intimidate you. You stop feeling like an outsider trying to break in and start feeling like a participant in a global conversation. This journey is not about erasing your accent, it's about adding a new layer of clarity and natural rhythm to your speech, which in turn fine-tunes your ear to a razor's edge. You are not just learning to understand fast English, you are learning to think in it. The journey to mastering native-level listening is not a straight line. It is a path filled with peaks of exhilarating clarity and valleys of frustrating plateaus. I have been in those valleys. There were weeks where I felt no progress, where fast speech remained a tangled knot of sounds. What separates those who ultimately succeed from those who give up is not talent, but strategy and mindset. You must learn to fall in love with the process itself, not just the destination. When you hit a plateau, it is your brain's signal that it has become efficient with your current practice routine. It's time to change the stimulus. If you've been mostly listening to American English podcasts, switch to a British drama for a week. If you've been shadowing slow, clear audio, challenge yourself with a fast-paced political debate or a comedy show with rapid-fire jokes. The initial discomfort is a sign of growth. Your brain is being forced to build new neural pathways to adapt to a different set of phonetic rules. This deliberate disruption is the engine of progress. Furthermore, you must become a collector of small wins. Do not measure your success only by whether you understood an entire movie without subtitles. Measure it by the fact that you clearly heard the gunna in a song today. Celebrate when you caught the linked sound in a phrase your colleague said. When you successfully used a reduced form naturally in your own speech, acknowledge that victory. These tiny moments are the bricks that build the fortress of your fluency. By focusing on them, you transform a long, arduous journey into a daily series of achievable, rewarding accomplishments. Finally, remember that you are not alone in this. The feeling of being lost is universal among language learners. Find your community. It could be an online language exchange group, a local conversation club, or just a friend on the same journey. Share your struggles and your discoveries. Teaching a concept you just mastered to someone else is one of the most powerful ways to solidify it in your own mind. This journey is as much about connection as it is about comprehension. You are learning to connect with a language, with its culture, and with a global community of people who share your goal. That is a beautiful reason to keep going, even on the days when it feels difficult. Now, let's move from theory into the final, most exciting phase, integration. This is where we take all the concepts, reductions, linking, rhythm, prediction, and mindset, and weave them into the very fabric of your daily life. Fluency is not an event you arrive at, it is a lifestyle you cultivate. It's about making the conscious shift from practicing English to simply using it as a tool to explore the world. Your environment is your most powerful teacher. Curate it deliberately. Change the default language on your phone and computer to English. Follow English-speaking content creators on social media who are passionate about your hobbies, be it gardening, gaming, car repair, or fashion. This ensures you are listening to English you genuinely care about, which dramatically increases retention and motivation. The goal is to create an English ecosystem where you are learning not just through dedicated study time, but through every casual scroll, every searched recipe, every watched tutorial. This is passive acquisition at its most powerful. Technology offers unparalleled tools for this. Use YouTube not just for entertainment, but as a dynamic listening lab. Watch a video on a topic you love, but use the playback speed feature strategically. Start at 0.75x speed to clearly identify the sound patterns we've discussed. Then, gradually increase to normal speed, and finally, challenge yourself with 1.25x or 1.5x. After acclimating to faster speeds, normal conversation will feel slow and manageable. This is like training for a race with weighted shoes. When you remove the weight, you feel incredibly light and fast. Most importantly, you must begin to speak. Knowledge trapped in your head is inert. It is only through output that your learning becomes solidified. Seek out opportunities for low-pressure conversation. Language exchange apps can connect you with people around the world. The goal is not to speak perfectly, but to communicate. As you struggle to produce linked speech in natural rhythm, you develop a deeper, intuitive understanding of it. You will start to notice the patterns you use, and this self-awareness directly sharpens your listening for those same patterns in others. You are closing the loop. This is how you move from being a student of the language to becoming a user of the language. This is how you achieve not just listening fluency, but a complete and confident voice in English. We have journeyed together through the mechanics of fast speech, from the hidden world of reductions and linking to the powerful rhythm of stress and intonation. We've equipped you with strategies for active listening, accent adaptation, and the crucial mindset of embracing ambiguity. But all of this knowledge converges on a single, transformative point: the transition from conscious effort to automatic understanding. This is the final frontier, where listening becomes not a skill you practice, but a part of who you are. This automaticity is achieved through one thing alone: massive, consistent, and comprehended input. Your brain needs to hear thousands of hours of connected speech to rewire its neural pathways permanently. But this isn't a daunting chore, it's an opportunity for daily discovery. The key is that the input must be comprehensible. You should understand roughly 70 to 80% of what you hear. This is the sweet spot where you are challenged but not overwhelmed, where your brain is forced to stretch and use its new decoding skills without shutting down from frustration. Think of each listening session as depositing a small investment into your Fluency bank account. Some days, you will make a large, conscious deposit, a full active listening session with shadowing and transcription. Other days, it might just be a small deposit, listening to a podcast on your commute or singing along to a song. Every single exposure counts. The compound interest on these investments is what eventually leads to wealth, the wealth of effortless comprehension. There is no single moment of getting it, but rather a gradual, beautiful process where the strain fades away and understanding flows naturally. You have the map. You understand the territory. You know why native speech sounds the way it does and how to train your ear to decipher it. The path forward is now in your hands. It requires your consistency, your curiosity, and your courage to embrace the mistakes and the moments of confusion. Remember my story, that person feeling lost in a London cafe. That person is not a memory of failure, but a reminder of how far one can travel with a determined heart and the right strategy. You now possess that strategy. Your journey to mastering native English listening and fluency is no longer a question of if, but of when. And that when starts the very next time you press play. And so, we arrive here. You now hold the blueprint, the detailed map that reveals the hidden paths through the landscape of spoken English. This is not an end, but a beginning. The true work, the beautiful, lifelong work of integration, now lies before you. Remember, fluency is not a destination you reach and then inhabit forever, it is a living, breathing state of engagement with the language. It requires nurturing, curiosity, and a generous dose of patience with yourself. Let me leave you with a final, crucial piece of wisdom: your accent is not the enemy. The goal of this entire journey has never been to erase your identity or to sound exactly like a news broadcaster from a specific city. The goal is clarity and confidence. The goal is to master the rhythmic and melodic patterns of English so that your ideas flow smoothly and are easily understood by others, regardless of your unique vocal fingerprint. The music of the language is what matters most, not perfect note-for-note imitation. Your voice, with its history and its character, is a valuable part of the global English conversation. Therefore, as you move forward, carry these 3 pillars with you. First, consistency over intensity. 10 minutes of active listening every day will forge stronger pathways than a 5-hour cram session once a month. Make English a daily guest, not a periodic visitor. Second, curiosity over criticism. When you encounter a new phrase or a confusing sound, approach it with the wonder of a detective, not the judgment of a critic. This mindset transforms obstacles into engaging puzzles. Finally, communication over perfection. Your ultimate purpose is to connect with other human beings, to share ideas, stories, and laughter. Do not let the pursuit of a perfect accent become a barrier to that profound human connection. You have learned to hear the music. You have learned to feel the rhythm. You have the tools to decode the speed. The confidence you sought is now within your grasp, waiting only for you to practice, to engage, and to finally trust in your own hard-earned abilities. Go forth and listen. Go forth and speak. The world is waiting to hear your voice. We have reached the end of our initial guide, but as I hope you now understand, this is truly just the beginning of your practical application. The theories, the techniques, the mindset shifts, they are all meaningless unless you activate them in your world, with the content you love, and the people you wish to connect with. The final secret, the one that ties everything together, is that mastery is hidden in the act of teaching. When you explain a concept to someone else, you solidify it within yourself. I want you to become an ambassador of the sounds you have learned. Explain to a language partner why "what do you think" becomes "whadja think." Demonstrate the rhythm of a sentence by tapping it out. When you actively deconstruct the language for someone else, you are forced to organize your knowledge with crystal clarity. You will discover gaps in your own understanding, and in filling those gaps, you achieve a new level of mastery. This is the ultimate form of active learning. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is not to merely be a student, but to become a resource. Share one small tip you learned from this series with one person this week. It could be about the schwa sound, about linked words, or about the power of predictive listening. In sharing, you cement your own learning and you contribute to the community of learners around you. This creates a powerful cycle of growth and accountability. You now possess a comprehensive understanding of the mechanics of fast, native English. You have a toolkit of strategies to continue your progress indefinitely. The path to fluent listening is now clear before you. It is a path of consistent, curious, and confident practice. I have given you the map and the compass. The journey itself is your own. I wish you great joy and immense success as you continue to unlock the world of English, one sound at a time. Now, let's talk about the invisible architecture of conversation, the signals and cues that native speakers use to navigate a discussion, which often have little to do with the words themselves. This is the metalanguage of listening, and mastering it will elevate your comprehension from simply understanding words to truly grasping intent and nuance. I learned this the hard way after completely missing a sarcastic joke, responding with a serious answer that made everyone laugh. It wasn't my vocabulary that failed me, it was my ability to hear the music behind the words. The most critical of these signals is intonation, the rise and fall of the voice. In English, intonation carries a massive part of the meaning. A simple sentence like "you're going out tonight" can be a genuine question, a show of surprise, or an accusation, all depending on the pitch. A rising intonation at the end typically indicates a question. A flat or falling intonation signals a statement. But listen for the slight fall-rise pattern that often hints at doubt, politeness, or an unspoken suggestion. That's a great idea. with that specific intonation might actually mean I'm not so sure about that. Beyond intonation, pay close attention to filler words and discourse markers. While often dismissed as useless noise, words like well, so, you know, and I mean serve vital functions. They buy the speaker time to think, they manage the flow of the conversation, and they signal the relationship between ideas. When someone says anyway, it often signals a return to the main point after a digression. Like is frequently used to introduce an example or approximate a description. Instead of tuning these out, start listening to them as road signs that guide you through the speaker's thought process. Furthermore, focus on the speaker's pace and volume. A sudden slowing down often emphasizes an important point. A quickening of speech might signal excitement or a desire to get through a less important detail. A drop in volume can create intimacy or indicate that something is a side comment. These paralinguistic features form the emotional subtext of the conversation. By training your ear to detect these subtle shifts in speed, pitch, and loudness, you are no longer just processing information, you are interpreting feeling and purpose. This is the highest level of listening fluency, where you understand not just what is said, but what is truly meant. For too long, I approached vocabulary like a stamp collector. I amassed thousands of individual words, carefully categorized them in my mind, and believed I was building fluency. But when I tried to speak, my sentences sounded awkward and unnatural. The breakthrough came when I stopped collecting stamps and started learning the entire phrases they were attached to. This is the power of collocations and lexical chunks, the pre-built modules of language that native speakers use without a second thought. A collocation is simply a group of words that are frequently found together. Native speakers don't say make a party or do a decision, we say have a party and make a decision. These partnerships are not governed by strict grammar rules but by convention. Learning words in these natural pairs and groups is exponentially more efficient than learning them in isolation. When you learn the verb commit, don't just learn its meaning. Learn its strong partners: commit a crime, commit to a relationship, commit yourself to a goal. Your brain retrieves this entire chunk of language, making your speech faster and more idiomatic. This is where your listening practice becomes a treasure hunt for these chunks. As you listen to podcasts and conversations, stop focusing solely on individual, unknown words. Instead, pay attention to the groups of words that native speakers use as a single unit. Phrases like "on the other hand," "as a matter of fact," "I was wondering if," or "it's up to you" are processed as whole items. Start a dedicated section in your notebook for these lexical chunks. Write down the entire phrase, not just the key word. Listen for how they are pronounced as a single, often reduced, stream of sound. To actively build this skill, practice chunking text yourself. Take a short paragraph from a news article or a transcript. Read it and break it down into the thought groups or phrases that a native speaker would use. For example, the sentence "he decided to leave early despite the fact that the meeting wasn't over" can be chunked as "he decided to leave early despite the fact that the meeting wasn't over." By training yourself to see and hear these chunks, you are programming your brain to anticipate and produce language in the same efficient, natural way. You are moving from constructing language word by word to flowing with it phrase by phrase. The most formidable wall I ever faced in my listening journey wasn't made of fast words or strange accents. It was built by my own frustration. I knew the techniques, I understood the theory, but my progress felt agonizingly slow. I was trapped in a cycle of intense effort followed by burnout. What broke the cycle was a fundamental recalibration of my goal. I stopped chasing perfection and started pursuing consistency. I stopped trying to conquer the language and started aiming to befriend it. This mindset shift is the non-negotiable foundation for everything we have discussed. You must reframe your relationship with English from one of struggle to one of curiosity. Every misunderstood sentence is not a failure, it's a data point. Every muffled word is not a setback, it's a puzzle. When you feel the frustration rising, that is your signal to switch gears. If an advanced podcast is draining you, switch to a children's cartoon for a while. The goal is to maintain contact, to keep the channel open, even if the signal is simpler today. Consistent, manageable exposure will always win against sporadic, heroic efforts. Embrace the concept of good enough listening. In a real-world conversation, you do not need to understand 100% of what is said. You need to understand enough to respond meaningfully, to ask a relevant question, to share a related thought. This good enough understanding keeps the interaction alive and moving forward. It builds your confidence and gives you more practice, which in turn leads to better comprehension. It's a virtuous cycle. Chasing every single word is like trying to catch every drop of rain in a storm. It's exhausting and impossible. Instead, learn to dance in the downpour, to get wet with the general meaning, and trust that you are still being soaked in the language. Finally, make your practice invisible. Weave it into the fabric of your life so seamlessly that it no longer feels like practice. Listen to English while you cook, while you exercise, while you commute. Let it be the background score to your day. This constant, low-level exposure is what normalizes the sounds of the language for your brain. It removes the pressure and the formality. The language becomes less of a subject to be studied and more of an environment you inhabit. This is the ultimate goal, for English to become not a foreign code you break, but a natural frequency you are always tuned to. The final, and perhaps most transformative, frontier in mastering native listening is to shatter the myth that listening is a passive skill. It is not. True, advanced comprehension is an act of co-creation between you and the speaker. You are not an empty vessel waiting to be filled with sound, you are an active participant building meaning in real time. This shift from receiver to collaborator is what will permanently close the gap between you and fluent understanding. This active collaboration happens through a process of constant, invisible hypothesis testing. As you listen, your brain is not just processing sounds, it is making rapid-fire predictions about what comes next based on grammar, context, and the speaker's intent. When you hear "she's so," your brain instantly pre-activates a category of words, likely adjectives. It might predict tired, happy, or intelligent. This prediction sharpens your focus, making you primed to recognize the actual word when it arrives. The more accurate your predictions become, the less cognitive energy you waste, and the more effortless listening feels. You can train this predictive engine by engaging in mental paraphrasing as you listen. While listening to a podcast or a colleague, silently rephrase their points in your own words in your mind. If they say, "The economic outlook remains uncertain due to fluctuating market conditions," you think, "So, the economy's future is unclear because the markets are changing." This does two things brilliantly. First, it forces you to confirm you have grasped the core meaning, not just the surface-level words. Second, it constantly verifies that your internal predictive model of the language is accurate and aligned with the input you're receiving. This entire process creates a powerful feedback loop that directly fuels your speaking fluency. The same neural pathways you use to predict and comprehend a grammatical structure are the ones you will use to produce it. The chunks and collocations you successfully anticipate are the ones that will naturally emerge in your own speech. By becoming an active, predictive listener, you are secretly and simultaneously performing the most effective kind of speaking practice. You are ingraining the deep patterns of the language into your cognition. This is the ultimate integration, where the line between listening and speaking blurs, and you truly begin to operate in the language. Let's address a reality that often gets overlooked in language learning guides: the chaos of real-world listening. You can master controlled podcasts and prepared speeches, only to feel lost again in a noisy restaurant or a group conversation where people talk over each other. This is the final boss of listening comprehension, and it requires a unique set of strategies. I remember my first business lunch where 3 people were speaking at once, and the clatter of plates drowned out half the words. I left with a headache and a feeling of defeat. But I also learned a critical lesson: in noise, you must shift your strategy from comprehensive understanding to strategic anchoring. In acoustically challenging environments, your brain cannot process everything. The key is to abandon the futile attempt to catch every word and instead anchor yourself to a single speaker or a single thread of conversation. Focus your auditory attention like a spotlight. If multiple people are speaking, choose one voice, perhaps the person directly across from you, and commit to following their line of thought. Let the other voices become background murmur. This focused attention allows your brain to dedicate its processing power to decoding one stream of sound amidst the chaos, significantly increasing your chances of understanding that particular thread. Another vital tactic is to leverage context more heavily than ever. When physical sound is compromised, your brain's predictive powers must work overtime. Use the environment, the body language, the topic at hand to fill in the auditory gaps. If you're in a cafe and you hear the fragment, a flat white, while the barista gestures with a cup, you can confidently predict the order. In a business meeting, if someone gestures towards a chart and says, "Cue 3 figures," you can infer they are discussing quarterly results. In noise, become a detective. Piece together the meaning from the scraps of sound you can hear and the powerful nonverbal clues all around you. Furthermore, do not hesitate to manage the conversation to your advantage. This is an advanced, proactive listening skill. If you are in a one-on-one conversation and background noise is interfering, politely move to a quieter corner. If you miss a crucial point in a group, it is perfectly acceptable to interject with, "Sorry, I missed that last part, could you repeat it?" Or, just to clarify, "Are you saying?" This does not show weakness, it demonstrates engagement and a commitment to accurate understanding. By actively shaping your listening environment and confirming your comprehension, you take control. You are no longer a passive victim of noise, but an active architect of your own comprehension. There is a moment in every language learner's journey where knowledge transforms into instinct. It is the moment you stop consciously applying rules and start simply understanding. This transition is powered by a deceptively simple yet profoundly powerful cognitive tool, the act of noticing. Linguist Stephen Krashen called this comprehensible input, but I like to think of it as the brain's aha button. You've been collecting data for weeks on reductions, linking, and rhythm. Now, we learn how to make that data click into place. This noticing is an active, focused state of mind. It is the difference between hearing the phrase "I should have called" and actually noticing that in rapid speech, it sounds like "I should have called." You've heard it 1,000 times, but today, you truly listen to the transformation. You notice the absence of the V sound, the softening of have to a mere A. This moment of conscious recognition is a neural event. It tells your brain, this is important. File this pattern under native speech. This is how abstract rules become lived intuition. To cultivate this, you must become a hunter of patterns, not just a collector of words. As you go about your daily listening, set a specific noticing goal for each session. Today, I will only notice how the word for is pronounced. You will hear it as fair in waiting for the bus, or even reduced to a simple F in looking for my keys. Tomorrow, notice only the pronunciation of you in different contexts, how it becomes ya in I'll see you later, or how it blends in don't you becoming don'tcha. This hyper-focused attention trains your brain to isolate and catalog these sounds until their recognition becomes automatic. This process is what builds your mental library of authentic language. Each time you notice a pattern, you add another tile to the mosaic of fluency. You are no longer surprised by the sounds, you expect them. And when you expect a sound, you understand it effortlessly. The strain melts away because your brain has successfully predicted the sonic pattern it encountered. This is the silent work of mastery happening beneath the surface of conscious effort. It is the steady, quiet construction of your innate understanding of how English truly flows. The digital age has handed us an unparalleled advantage in the language learning journey, but it has also created a trap of passive consumption. Simply having access to thousands of hours of English content is not enough. The key is to weaponize that technology, to use it with precision and purpose. I moved from being a passive streamer to an active engineer of my input, and it accelerated my progress in ways I never imagined. Your smartphone is not just an entertainment device, it is your most powerful listening lab. Let's talk about the strategic use of subtitles. The default for many learners is to watch everything with subtitles permanently on, but this often becomes a crutch that prevents your ears from doing the work. Instead, use subtitles as a surgical tool. Watch a scene first without any subtitles. Strain to understand. Note the parts that were completely opaque. Then, rewatch the same scene with English subtitles. This is where you do your detective work, connecting the blurred sounds you heard to the actual words on the screen. Finally, watch it a third time without subtitles, and feel the satisfaction of understanding the previously garbled sections. This cycle of struggle, revelation, and reinforcement is incredibly effective. Beyond video players, specific apps are designed for this kind of intensive practice. Tools that allow you to easily loop short audio segments, slow down speed without distorting pitch, and provide instant transcripts are game changers. They transform a 2-minute news clip from a fleeting piece of information into a rich training ground where you can isolate a single sentence and repeat it until the sound patterns become clear. The goal is to move from I think I understand to I can clearly hear every reduction and link. This requires the ability to listen to the same few seconds repeatedly, a feature that standard media players often lack. Furthermore, artificial intelligence is opening up new frontiers. Voice recognition software can now provide you with immediate feedback on your pronunciation and rhythm when you shadow a native speaker. Some platforms can even generate interactive exercises based on any video or audio file you choose. This means you can practice with the exact same content you enjoy for fun, turning your favorite YouTube channel into a personalized textbook. The technology exists to create a completely tailored curriculum that aligns with your interests and targets your specific weaknesses. Your job is to move from being a consumer of this technology to being a conductor, using these tools to orchestrate your own path to mastery. We have spent our time together deconstructing the machinery of spoken English, the sounds, the rhythm, the linking. But to truly master listening, we must now speak of its heart. The technical aspects are the map, but the emotional and cultural context is the territory. Understanding the words is one thing, understanding the heart behind them is everything. This is the difference between functional comprehension and genuine connection. I learned this lesson not in a classroom, but through a simple, repeated mistake. A colleague would finish a difficult task and say, with a sigh, "Well, that was fun." And I would smile and agree, completely missing the sarcasm. I heard the words correctly, but I was deaf to the emotional resonance. The language was no longer just a collection of phonetic rules, it was a vehicle for humor, irony, shared experience, and subtle nuance. My listening had been technically accurate but emotionally barren. To develop this, you must listen for the emotional subtext carried by intonation, pitch, and pace. A simple "I'm fine" can mean a dozen different things based on how it's said. Listen to the tone of voice in movie dialogues. Without watching the screen, can you tell if a character is angry, sad, or joking? Practice this. Listen to talk radio and focus solely on identifying the speaker's mood. Is the host excited about a topic? Is the caller uncertain? This practice tunes your ear to the music of emotion, which is just as important as the music of the words themselves. Furthermore, immerse yourself in the culture of the language. Humor, in particular, is a cultural fingerprint. Watch comedy shows and stand-up specials. At first, you might not get the jokes. That's okay. Analyze why. Was it a play on words? A cultural reference? A satirical take on a local custom? Each joke you deconstruct gives you insight into the collective mind of the culture. You start to understand not just what people are saying, but who they are. This cultural fluency makes your listening predictive because you begin to understand the shared assumptions and common knowledge that native speakers operate from. You are no longer just hearing words, you are participating in a conversation that stretches far beyond the room you are in. We have reached the final piece of the puzzle, the culmination of every technique, every mindset shift, every moment of focused practice. This is where it all converges into a single, powerful realization: mastering native listening is not about achieving a state of perfect, effortless understanding. It is about building an unshakable confidence in your ability to navigate the flow of the language, no matter how fast it runs or how unpredictable its currents may be. You are not building a dam to control the river, you are learning to swim with strength and grace. Let me leave you with a condensed action plan, your compass for the journey ahead. First, remember the core concepts. Connected speech transforms individual words into a flowing stream. Rhythm and stress provide the heartbeat of the language, highlighting the key information. Reductions and linking are the natural shortcuts of native speakers, not signs of laziness. Your ear can be trained to not only hear these but to expect them. Second, your practice must be active and consistent. Engage in deliberate decoding sessions with short audio clips. Hunt for specific sounds. Shadow speakers to build muscle memory. Immerse yourself in a curated English environment where you are constantly exposed to the authentic, messy, and beautiful reality of the language. Use technology not for passive consumption, but as a precision tool for dissection and repetition. Finally, and most importantly, carry the right mindset. Embrace ambiguity as a natural part of the process. Celebrate small wins. Understand that plateaus are not walls, but stepping stones. Your accent is part of your identity, your goal is clarity, not its eradication. See yourself not as a student struggling with a foreign code, but as a participant in a global conversation equipped with the skills to engage fully. You now possess the map. You understand the secret pathways. The frustration you once felt is simply the fossilized evidence of your old approach, ready to be shed. The path to fluent listening is clear. It is a path of patient, persistent, and curious practice. The confidence you seek is earned not in a single leap, but in thousands of small steps of understanding. Go forward now and listen. The world is speaking. You are ready to understand.